The other area where I think it has an important role to play that we haven't talked about is in sexual performance and sexual stamina. When I first became sexually active, and I think this is a problem of many young men simply because they have so much juice going, is premature ejaculation. All my sexual encounters were haunted by that possibility simply because I was just so hyped up over the idea of having intercourse with someone. Well, I discovered that smoking hashish gave me an incredible ability to control my ejaculation and also my sexual stamina. So these were invaluable social skills. It gave me verbal facility, sexual stamina, control over my ejaculation, beautiful visions, a prodigious memory. It did everything but suppress appetite, which it certainly did not do. The munchies, regardless of what pharmacologists tell us about how this is an illusion, the munchies seem to be a very real part of cannabis use, meaning that 40 minutes or an hour after smoking cannabis, one does find oneself rummaging through the cupboard looking for chocolate chip cookies. But this is hardly grounds for hanging, which is the current legal response in Malaysia.
There has been a countervailing move in Europe, and so it's not as if this hysteria is gripped everywhere equally.
Then we'll be seeing increase of novelty and cultural evolution in Europe outstripping developments in the United States, according to our
well, to some
benefits.
It may in fact be happening. I mean, I certainly feel much more at the center of novelty when I'm in Germany, where, by the way, people smoke cannabis in restaurants and quite openly. The United States seems to be on a kind of fundamentalist religious bender that and its attitude toward women's reproductive rights and drugs and all these things that is making us a kind of pariah in the first world. I mean, we represent values which are incomprehensible to educated Europeans. One thing that occurs to me that I'm sure Rupert would have enthusiasm for because it involves his grassroots science thing, this question of, does it make you lazy, does it give you energy, does it destroy your memory, does it enhance your memory? Because I've smoked so many years, so many different kinds of dope, of cannabis, I've come to hold pretty strong opinions about its various forms. And I think that, number one, charas is a debilitating drug. It has opium in it, it has datura in it, and it has various additives and binders that are not good. Marijuana, which is how most Americans smoke their cannabis, involves the incineration of too much inert vegetable material, so that you are getting pesticide residues, carbon monoxide, tars. All of these things are complicating the question of what does cannabis do. To my mind, the true test of whether or not cannabis is what the pharmacological effects of cannabis are, we should almost restrict our discussion to high-grade Lebanese hashish, which is truly nothing but the compressed resin of the female cannabis plant. And that's the classical hashish of the Arab, and that's what I prefer and feel almost to be a different drug from both Mexican marijuana and Pakistani or Indian hashish. Those things do carry detrimental qualities that are not present in the pure, for instance, 3-lion or so-called red Lebanese hashish. That's the hashish that we want. That's the cannabis product that I would feel is the one that everyone should smoke before they judge or form a strong opinion about what cannabis can do.
In spite of the increasingly repressive atmosphere in the United States, I imagine that marijuana smoking is still on the increase. I mean, it's very widely used, at least secretly.
They claim not, but
there's a decrease.
Slow, slight.
Tonnage?
Yeah, they claim so.
Still, it's sufficiently widespread that a certain amount of grassroots scientific experimentation could be going on if there was a way to share the results of the experiments.
Yes, this is something that grassroots, no pun intended, grassroots science could tell us, is the relative benignity of various forms of hashish or of cannabis.
Indeed, yes. I mean, this would be a fairly easy project to carry out. I mean, assuming people had access to supplies of which they could compare.
Mm-hmm. There used to be testing labs available. I don't know if there still are on the streets in Berkeley or San Francisco, for example. You could take your specimen of hashish and find out if it was opiated or not.
Yes, that is a simple test, but questions about tars, pesticide residues, carbon monoxide output, various methods of smoking.
You'd have to have a revival of kitchen chemistry, as it were.
Right. But I think that the pure resin of the cannabis plant is, you would be hard-pressed to design a drug with as many laudable qualities as that one.
So then perhaps we should consider what would happen if the trend that's happening in Europe anyway continues, if cannabis is actually legalized, which is, as I say, it's already de facto legalized in parts of Germany, Switzerland, Italy, even to an extent in Britain. So what would happen? I mean, it's not a prospect I actually ever relished, because I then imagine, Philip Morris and Anglo-American Tobacco Corporation moving into this area. And, there's no doubt the restrictions on their commercials, but the idea that this could then be a mass-marketed product, large-scale international corporations would be in on it.
BCCI.
Well, there'd be the main high street banks and so on would then be financing these deals rather than they'd take over the role of BCCI quite legally.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I particularly relish that. And the other issue which we haven't talked about, which is no doubt of some concern to you, Terence, is at what age children might be permitted or encouraged to experiment with cannabis. And would we want this to be going on in the gazebo here at Esalen, in nursery schools, junior high school? If it's legalized and much more readily available, the same questions would arise as arise already, but more so because it would be more available.
Well, I prefer decriminalization rather than legalization. I don't think we need to simply say that any entrepreneur can invest in land, plant cannabis, patent a brand name, and begin to sell it on the open market. It would be much better simply to decriminalize it so that, and say something like each person could possess 10 plants, but that the transport and sale of it would be discouraged in some way.